Hi everyone, my name is Joanna. Me and my team, which are Nianang, Yufeng, Gregory, Chialing, Jingyi, and Sihyun, will be presenting our social issue and company that we've chose, which is reducing single-use plastic in Australia. We've decided to revolve in Cole's company because we believe this issue, which is single-use plastic, has become a major environmental issue globally. And in Australia, it is no exception. Large retailers like Coles that we choose are in a very powerful position to influence both the supply chains and behavioral consumer behavior. That's why this issue is not just environmental but also social and behavioral. Okay. The reason why we choose Coles is because of its scale and influence to the retail world in Australia. As we know, Coles is a very big supermarket. We always go there. We can find it anywhere. Um, and everything that we want to find, it's always there in our Coles. It's like very big. Um, yeah, it has introduced us to sustainability initiatives such as reducing plastic bags. I feel like they've already removed plastic bag use, but they've changed it into paper bags. But some things like that, plastic use still remains a significant issue in Coles because other than their plastic bags, they still have so many products that uses plastic. This makes Coles a very strong case that we want to evaluate in because it can also be a progress and we can also see their limitations around this single plastic use issue. So I'm gonna talk deeper on how we're going to analyze our issue even deeper. We're gonna choose a theory, which in here we've already chose OST. If you guys don't know, I'm gonna introduce to you guys what is OST. So OST is an open system theory. It's a theory that is in our module. Around week 3 lecture. So this theory basically means that organizations such as Coles that we've chose, they do not operate on their own. They need supplier, they need customer, and they're affected by government rules, consumer behaviors, and yeah, they're basically influenced by external environment and they are interacting with them. For example, cost depends on input such as suppliers, materials, customer demand, government rules. These inputs are going to be processed through their internal operation, such as it will affect their packaging, it will affect their distribution, and finally, it will result in the product that they will sell and the plastic use that they will generate, waste that they generate. So, this is known as the input output process cycle in a business. What this means is that Cole's behavior, especially this use of plastic waste, is shaped by the structure which both are internal and external pressures. External pressure here can be like customers or consumer demand, expectations, government's regulations, as I mentioned before, and also environmental concerns. These days, consumer will prefer something that is environmentally friendly instead of something that is instant and waste that will pollute the earth. So instead of just looking at what Coase is doing, this theory that we're gonna dive in deeper will make us understand why coals are doing it instead of what are they doing. So now the next person will explain the social issue regarding single-use plastic even deeper. And yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to the next person. Thank you.
Now, I'll explain the social issue of single use plastic pollution in Australia. Single use plastic are plastic products that are designed to be used only once before throwing away. Common examples including shopping bags, food wrappers, takeaway containers, straws, plastic cutlery, and other packaging material. These items are popular because they are cheap, lightweighted, and convenient for both business and consumers. However, their convenience also creates a serious problem. They are used only for a very short time but can remain in the environment for many years. In Australia, single use plastic has become a major environmental issue. As shown on this slide, around 1 million tonnes of Australia's annual plastic consumption is single use plastic, and approximately 13,000 tonnes of plastic leak into the marine environment each year. Cicero also report that about three-quarters of the rubbish found along Australia's coastline is plastic. And that three-quarter of the plastic found along Australian coastline is single-use plastic. In addition, only a small proportion of single-use plastic is recycled. These figures show that single-use plastic is not just a small everyday waste issue, but a large-scale national problem with visible environmental consequences. This issue is especially relevant to supermarkets and large retailers such as Coles. Retail systems rely heavily on plastic packaging for food protection, product display, transport, storage, and consumer convenience. In other words, supermarkets are not only part of the wider consumption system, but also a major point where single-use plastic is distributed and normalized in everyday life. This means the issue is not only environmental, but also organizational and managerial. It reflects how modern retail operations often prioritize efficiency, hygiene, logistic, and convenience, sometimes at the expense of long-term sustainability. So, when we talk about single use plastic pollution, we are not only talking about waste after consumption, we are also talking about the system, decisions, and organizational practice that makes this waste so common in the first place. This is why COAS is an important focal organization for our documentary.
And this issue is important for both the environment and society because single use plastic creates damages far beyond its short period of use. In Australia, a very large amount of single use plastic is consumed each year, but only a small part is effectively recycled. A huge amount of also leaks into the marine environment, which harms the ocean, wildlife, and ecosystems. So over time, many plastic items break down into microplastics, which are even harder to remove and can remain in the environment for several years. And from a social perspective, this matters because plastic pollution affects public spaces, community well-being, and long-term public health concerns. It also increases waste management pressure and creates costs for society, and not just for businesses. Since supermarkets like Coles are a major distribution point for the packaging and plastic bags, and their choices influence everyday consumer behavior. And that is why Coles is important not only as part of the problem, but also a potential driver of positive change through reducing plastic use and promoting more sustainable practices.
Today, I will be diving into the Coles case study, focused on how this major Australian supermarket has navigated the single-use plastic pollution crisis from its historical plastic use to its current sustainability efforts. First, let's look at the core problem, Coles plastic consumption and its environmental impact. As one of Australia's largest supermarket chains, Coles relies heavily on single-use plastic across its operations, including fresh food packaging, plastic bag, pre-packing food containers, and soft multi-layer plastic. These plastic directly cause serious harm. They increase landfill waste, lead to environmental littering, are hard to recycle due to the mixed materials, and pose a high risk of entering oceans and breaking into microplastic. In response to this crisis, Coast has implemented comprehensive sustainability measures. This included packaging innovation with cardboard partners, consumer engagement campaigns, a single-use practice ban, and investment in recycling infrastructure with a target of 100% recyclable old brands packaging by 2025. So far, Coast has achieved 87% sustainable packaging, scale up innovative solutions, and significantly reduce single-use plastic bag usage nationwide. Finally, coast holds a dual position in Australian plastic systems. Historically, its widespread plastic use amplified national plastic waste and environmental harm. Today, as a leading change agent, Coast industry scale and sustainability commitment position it to drive systemic change in retail packaging and consumer behavior. Okay, that's a quick overview of Cole's practice journey. And now I will hand over to the next presenters. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jialing. Now I will explain the core framework of our analysis. the organization structure theory. The organization structure theory, also known as the structure behavior theory, is a fundamental organizational theory. Its core logic is very easy to understand. An organization structure directly shapes its behavior. Specifically, an organization's formal structure including its system, process, departments, setup, and supply chain mechanisms determine the actions and decisions of the entire company and its employees. Informal structures, such as corporate culture and values, also play a critical role in guiding behavior. For example, if a company establishes a dedicated sustainability department and incorporates plastic reduction goals into performance evaluations, its change in structure like to uh, guide employees to make more environmentally friendly behavior in procurement, packaging, and other aspects. This theory is perfectly suited to our analysis of costs. It helps us understand why costs make central decisions about single-use plastic and how its internal structure drives its plastic usage and sustainability practice. Next, my teammate will connect this theory to Cole's actual operations. Thank you.
From an organizational structure theory perspective, Cole's use of single use plastic is not just an environmental issue, but a result of how the organization is structured. OST suggests that organizational structures shape behavior and decision making. In the case of Cole's, its structure is highly efficiency driven, particularly within its supply chain and operations. This means that decisions are often made based on cost reduction, speed, and standardization. As a result, single use plastic becomes a practical solution. It is cheap, lightweight, and helps streamline logistics such as packaging, storage, and transportation. Therefore, the continual use of plastic is not simply a choice, but an outcome of structural priorities within the organization. Additionally, Kohl's operates within a highly competitive retail environment. Its structure is designed to maximize efficiency and maintain low prices, which further reinforces reliance on plastic packaging. This shows that the issue is embedded within the organizational system itself. From an OSD perspective, unless Kohl's changes its internal structure, particularly its supply chain priorities and performance metrics, from an organizational structure theory perspective, Kohl's use of single-use plastic is not just an environmental issue, but
Coles has made good progress in reducing single-use plastic. For example, they banned plastic bags and improved recyclable packaging. However, there are still some limitations. Coles still rely heavily on plastic, especially in food packaging. Also, many soft plastic cannot be recycled effectively, and the consumer behavior still prefers convenience, so which increases plastic use. Based on open system theory, structure determines behavior. In case the current strategy still supports plastic use, for example, suppliers depends on plastic packaging and plastic is cheaper and more convenient. Because of this structure, the behavior is still high plastic consumption. So even if cows want to reduce plastic, the system itself makes it difficult to change. In conclusion, the plastic problem is not only about costs, it's a system problem involving suppliers, consumers, and the market. The current structure limits sustainable behavior, so make the real change cause most change is structure. To solve this problem, we need to change the structure. First, costs should require suppliers to use sustainable packaging. Second, they can redesign packaging system like reusable containers. Third, pricing is important. Sustainable products should be cheaper. Also, costs should invest more in recycling system. Finally, they should educate consumers and encourage reusable behavior.